Ah, shit. Get your tea and your popcorn because we have hit yet another psychological jackpot. Welcome back to another episode of Comment Foolery Exposed. I find it interesting how, in black female spaces, you have them calling me a colorist, saying that the exotical space is colorist. People love calling out every different type of colorist, except for the men who marry black women. If you're a non black man who has married a black woman, it's impossible for you to be colorist. Well, you have a man right here who is sharing his wife on social media, and basically his entire page is just him making fun of his wife. He literally made a joke about how his actual crush was Selena Gomez. That's his actual preference, is non-black Latina women. But instead, he married an unambiguous black woman. And isn't it interesting how you have women online and then they say, oh, well, being raised by a black mom is better. It's better to create mixed children with black moms. Okay, do you think that the child of these people would be healthy? A man who publicly announces that he would have rather had Selena Gomez, or he got with her because he couldn't get a woman who looked more like Selena. And let's take a look at some of these comments. This person says she's way prettier than Selena. So do you see how they're trying to make a hierarchy? Oh, well, if you got chosen to be the wife, then that means you're prettier. So you won, Miss Unambiguous. You won because you got chosen as the wife. So it means that you one-upped this Latina woman. This person says Shanquella Gomez. And by the way, this is a non-black person. So they're trying to make a play on Shanquella Robinson, who's the black woman who actually got unalived. And I thought that that was wrong, laughing at black femicide. Isn't that terrible? Isn't that a bad thing to laugh at? So why is this black woman's husband allowing her to be called Shanquella? And then this person says, marriage fixed by Netflix. Somebody else said Shaniqua Gomez. So they're basically saying this is an affirmative action marriage. This is like a charity marriage. He's doing her a favor by being with her. Then you've got people in the comments who are trying to put her look-alike in here. So they put this bald, dark-skinned black person. They had some pictures of Samuel L. Jackson in there. Somebody else says, bro, that's her shadow. Where is she? Imagine divesting and literally bragging to mixed women about how much better you get treated by non-black men, and you're literally in the comments being called a shadow. So you're not even a human being. This person says, baked Selena Gomez. Another person says, that's Selena Quisha. So they're trying to make her, I guess, like a black name or something. This person says, the instructions said $3.50 for 7 minutes, not 70 minutes. So they're making fun of her, saying she's burnt. They're saying that if you would have put Selena Gomez in the oven for 70 minutes, then you would have come up with this woman. So I find it interesting how people run and jump and they want to make videos about the exoticals. People love calling you colorist, texturist, featurist, and racist when you're black or black adjacent. They call out every single woman that's lighter than them. But then suddenly if it's a man that's lighter than them, especially if it's a non-black man who's the husband of somebody, suddenly his racism gets erased. It's almost as if they have this mental illness where it's like, if you're fucking on a black woman, you can't be racist. If you're married to a black woman, it's impossible for you to be racist. Meanwhile, this man, he's literally allowing his wife to be called the N-word so he can go viral on Instagram. This person says, why not just marry someone that's actually your type? I don't get these jokes disguised as you telling us you feel like you settled looks-wise. And by the way, I'm showing these comments just to highlight how low the self-esteem is of some of these women. And that's why I don't take a lot of their colorism talking points seriously. Because they pick and choose who's a colorist and who's not. They said Blueface is a colorist because he called someone a good dark skin. Well, what about all these people calling this woman the N-word? What about this non-black man who is allowing his wife to be bullied? He kind of uses her as a shield. He reminds me of Nick, Nicolandria. Those non-black men that want to get with a black woman and then they use their black girlfriend or wife as a shield so they can get away with everything? These will be the dustiest non-black men. And because they've married a dark-skinned black woman, they can do no wrong. This person says that's Terry Crews. Imagine allowing your dark-skinned black wife to be masculinized. Isn't that one of their main talking points? Oh, you guys need to stop masculinizing us. Okay, well, this man is allowing people to comment on his page and call his wife Terry Crews. This person says Nagina Gomez. Somebody else says, low-key roasting your wife on the internet, bold yet stupid move, bruh. So people are even trying to call out this guy, like, hey, why are you allowing your wife to just get bullied? Somebody else says Melanin Gomez. Somebody else said Seleniga. And by the way, these are non-black people, because a lot of people, when I show my comment foolery exposed videos, some people are like, oh, well, it's not really colorist because the person who said it was black, or they'll be like, oh, the person who was colorist, they weren't even dark-skinned. Okay, well, it doesn't matter where the colorism is coming from. Why don't you keep the same energy with non-black men? Why is that the only group where you don't call them colorist? Especially non-black men who are with black women. This person says Selena Gomez, so they keep making N-word jokes all in her comment section. This person says, guess Selena got forgotten on the charcoal. Tell me, Exoticals, when's the last time you heard somebody call someone charcoal? Because if I'm not mistaken, that's actually one of the most colorist terms. That's literally like kind of a slave term, like calling somebody charcoal or tar. And you can see the username, Jorge. So this is not even a black person. This is not a mixed woman. I mean, it could be a fake account, but it's like, why do they never call out non-black men? No, they don't want to call out non-black men. They'd rather clout chase and pretend that they're super desirable by non-black men. Meanwhile, this is the most racist comment section I've actually seen in a while. Then you got this Indian couple right here. Is she from Timu? And then you got a non-black woman laughing. And then somebody says Timbuktu. Here's another non-black person saying that's Saliga. Why doesn't anybody want to talk about the unambiguous women where their self-esteem is so low that they have no boundaries? They put belonging over their boundaries. Because think about it, how low does your self-esteem have to be for you to allow your non-black husband to post your face on the internet? And this is not the only video that he's made. He's made like dozens of videos. And by the way, this video making fun of her is pinned on his page. But why does nobody address the women who have low self-esteem to the point where they put belonging as their number one thing? They're just so desperate to fit in with somebody non-black. They're so desperate. They want to brag to mixed women. You have women bragging saying, oh, well, non-black men, they like me better than you. Oh, well, they prefer chocolate more than anyone else. And then a couple months ago, we had that woman on here where she was celebrating being SA'd in the bathroom by a Native American man. So how low do your boundaries have to be to the point where you will do anything just to fit in, just to be wanted, just to be claimed? So it doesn't matter if your non-black husband is posting you and making fun of you. At least he's posting you. At least he's showing you publicly. At least he's promoting you. Have you ever noticed that women with low self-esteem, they have a really strong desire to be claimed publicly? In fact, that's one of their biggest complaints. They talk about how their boyfriends or husbands will hide them from the public. And so then you come across some of these unambiguous women where their self-esteem is so low, they just want to be publicly seen with you. They don't even care how you treat them. And I know it's not all women. I shouldn't have to say not all in my videos. Nothing I'm talking about is all. But this woman in particular, oh, she absolutely has self-esteem. She has low self-esteem because, think about it, some women, they've never been with anybody before. If you look back through my older videos, you'll actually see women complaining about being femcells. And when I use the term femcell, I know that true femcells don't really exist. But I do think there are some black women with low self-esteem where they're a femcell when it comes to non-black men. That's who they've always wanted to sleep with. That's who they've always wanted to marry or whatever. And so for some women, they're so desperate to be married to anybody lighter than them. They're just so desperate to be claimed that they will settle for anything. A little bit of racism? Oh, no big deal. People calling me the N-word on my husband's Instagram page? Oh, no big deal. And I also feel like sometimes the black community does set up women to deal with racism, because have you ever seen how some people will tell black women, oh, you're being too sensitive? Like sometimes you have black women telling other black women that. They'll be like, you're too sensitive, it's not a big deal. So I wouldn't be surprised if this woman has that mindset where it's like, oh, it's just the internet. They're just commenting. They're just trolling. I'm not too sensitive. It just rolls off my back. It's not a big deal. Oh, but let me come on YouTube. If I were to come on YouTube and make a joke about Shanquella Robinson, my channel wouldn't even be here. But you've got a non-black man who's got hundreds of videos and thousands of comments calling her the N-word up and down the entire page. And that's just trolling. Oh, don't be too sensitive. It's not a big deal. That's a trauma response. Have you ever noticed that there is a multifaceted trauma response that black women have when it comes to the isms? Notice how with the exoticals, they tend to tap into the fight response. So I'm going to argue back and forth with you. I'm going to try to dox you. I'm going to try to call you guys bleachers. That's the fight response. But then when they deal with non-black men, they tap into the fawning trauma response. Like, oh, but he's not racist. Oh, but he's such a sweetheart. Oh, he made a joke about unaliving me in the woods, but it's not a big deal. Oh, well, he lets people call me the N-word thousands of times in the comment section, but he's a sweet person. So that's the fawning trauma response. And this is the downside to unambiguous women being treated as the exception because, now you're just attracting these racist non-black men who are like, oh, hey, I don't like your community. I look down on your entire community. Oh, but you're the exception, though. So you can just sleep with me and be my wife slave. And by the way, he actually does make jokes about her, like, cleaning up behind him and basically doing slave labor. And by the way, I'm also convinced that in 2026, non-black men are using dark-skinned black women for a come-up. You had Nick do this with Olandria. You got this guy going viral off of his interracial relationship. So just like how unambiguous black women had the divestment trend, I noticed now you've got non-black men who are kind of grifting. They're doing the same thing. So they're like, hey, look at my girlfriend. She's black and dark skinned. Give me attention now. Come follow me on Instagram. So men are literally using these women as a mule. So all of that talking that they did, saying that they don't want to be mammies, they said they don't want to be mammies for black men, but then you got women like this one where she is now a mammy for a non-black man. The trends online have turned black women from being stepping stools and mules for unambiguous guys to now doing the same behavior, except now it's with dusty, bottom shelf Brads, bottom shelf Jorge. Now they're doing the behavior for these other men, making them famous. And another thing this made me think about is the whole concept of being a jester. Have you ever heard men in the black pill talk about jesters? They'll be like, oh, I don't want to have to jester. I don't want to have to entertain. Well, that's kind of what this unambiguous black woman reminds me of. She is allowing herself to be the butt of the joke. She's being clowned on. She's being roasted. And she's participating in that so that her husband can be entertained. So it's another version of the femcel mindset. A lot of women who have been femcels or they felt excluded from non-black communities, you'll see them get into these extremely dusty relationships with these men who treat them like trash. Just imagine if her husband was black. Imagine if this was a dark-skinned black man allowing her to be called the N-word or to be called burnt. Just think about how different the reactions would be. So I've noticed a lot of black women, they're tough on colorists if they feel like you are black or black adjacent. But suddenly, if you're the man that they want to fuck, if you're the man that they want to be married to and you're not black, oh, your colorism is going to completely be thrown out the window. Did you notice how in the Blueface video that I just posted, you had black women analyzing his facial expressions? They're analyzing everything he said. And then they said he was a colorist for calling her a good dark skin. But then you got this guy who is literally letting her be called burnt and be called the N-word. And he makes a joke saying that he really wanted Selena Gomez and not her. But then this guy, I don't see any unambiguous black women making videos about him or calling him dusty. Why am I the only person talking about this? So they practice selective outrage. One day you're colorist, the next day you're not. One day all black men are colorist, the next day it's all black women. And then after that it's the mixed community. And then, oh no, wait, but then light-skinned people are colorist. Oh no, but Creoles are colorist. Oh wait, but suddenly if it's Nick from Nicolandria, or if it's a non-black man who's with a dark-skinned black woman, they're not colorist. You know why? Because they are contributing to dark-skinned black women's desirability. Go look at Chrissy's channel right now. And if you watch their series on social climbing, they talk about how simply dating somebody of another race, that raises your value. Yes, that's one of their talking points. They literally believe that your value goes up or down depending on the race that you're associated with. If that's not hierarchy thinking, I don't know what is. Oh, and do you guys remember how I talked about high abuse tolerance? Some people have a higher abuse tolerance depending on their background. So, a lot of people in the black community, they do complain about coming from broken homes, having absent fathers, or having toxic mothers and stuff. So, if this woman came from a broken home, or if she was around any narcs, she may not even realize that her own husband actually has narc traits because she's been desensitized to it. So people who have a high abuse tolerance, usually they are people who come from abusive families and backgrounds, so they feel like, oh, this is normal. He just acts like my mom. Oh, this is normal. He acts like my dad. Oh, he acts like my family members. How many black women have you seen where they've admitted that their own black family members called them burnt? Their own family members called them the N-word. And so for some of them, they feel like, oh, it's not a big deal. He's just calling me the same names that my own mother and father called me. And I've also noticed in the black community, the more they like the person, the more they're going to dismiss their colorism. So if they like you, or if they want to date you, or they want to be represented by you or something, then it's not really a big deal. And by the way, this is also why I don't believe some of them when they say that they love themselves, they love how they look and everything, because a lot of them don't even want to breed themselves. They don't want to birth children that look like them. And if you go to some of their channels, you'll hear them talking about how birthing a mixed baby is a sign of success. You know, that's a sign that you have elevated above the black community because you got out of it, right? So even if you look at black excellence culture, who do they center black excellence culture around? Michelle Obama and Barack Obama. Why do they always bring up Michelle Obama? Well, it's because she's married to a biracial man. Black excellence culture is always riding the coattails of mixed and light-skinned people. Think about even back 100 years ago. You had W.E.B. Du Bois, you had Booker T. Washington, you had Frederick Douglass, you had Rosa Parks. You had all these light-skinned and mixed people. And to this day, people still use those types of talking points. They don't even realize that that's really what they're using. Kind of this talented 10th talking point. So if you're a black person who managed to marry someone lighter than you, or you procreated children with a more ambiguous phenotype than you, then you have ascended. You have ascended out of the abyss of blackness. And it's funny because I also see some unambiguous women making comments like, oh, well, what is your privilege? You know, exoticals, where's your privilege? And it's like, well, where's the privilege of this woman? She's literally being called the N-word. I haven't seen slurs like this on social media in a while. But what do you ladies think? Let me know in the comment section and I'll talk to you next time. Stay pretty, ladies.